Hello friends and welcome back to another Blazing Deserts DLC Devblog review. This is Devblog 132, Gunpowder Weapons. My initial reaction is, oh no, but let's not prejudge. We need to actually start seeing numbers of these weapons in-game before we can judge. In principle, I'm not crazy about it because it pulls me out of the medieval setting, but we should remember that there is historical precedent. I mean, towards the end of medieval times, of course, you had this type of thing. Let's not waffle, let's get into it. As you've already learned here, the southern city-states are places where medieval science flourishes. Advancements in medicine, astrology, and alchemy are unlike anything found in the north. We've also learned a good deal about the alchemy part already, but now it's time to look at their finest alchemical achievement, gunpowder weapons. This requires a bit of an introduction, so let's start. Battle Brothers is set in an era spanning the early to high medieval ages as we move from Scramasax to Greatsword and across all the tiers of equipment. There's a few outliers, such as the fencing sword, but by and large this dictates what kind of equipment may make its way into the game. It's also the reason why there isn't any full-blown plate armor available. Naturally, the same restrictions apply to any gunpowder weapons we're going to introduce. Until the Blazing Deserts DLC, the setting was limited to draw inspiration from Europe. Gunpowder weapons weren't much of a thing there at the time, but it doesn't mean that other cultures weren't employing them. The gunpowder weapons we're going to introduce aren't the muskets that many people may immediately think of, because these clearly would fall out of the era that Battle Brothers covers. Instead, they are very early firearms based on what Eastern cultures actually had available at the time. Gunpowder weapons work differently from any other ranged weapons in the game and fill their own niche. Their attacks don't target individual equipment, but instead hit an area of effect covering multiple tires and always hit both body and head. Also differently from any other weapons, the skill of a shooter and the defenses of a target don't determine whether a target is hit at all, but rather for how much damage it is hit. The higher the skill of a shooter, the more damage a target receives. The higher the defenses of a target, the less damage it receives. For example, while you'll have a hard time dodging a load of shrapnel being shot at you in its entirety, a shield offers good protection against it and will reduce any damage you might otherwise take. Okay, that's cool, I like that. Because it's important to understand the area of effect an attack with a gunpowder weapon will cover, not least to avoid friendly fire, we've revised how these are displayed in the game. No matter if a tile is empty or not, you'll now always see which tiles are in the line of fire. Naturally, this goes for any melee attacks already in the game as well. So with all that said, let's take a closer look at the gunpowder weapons available for you to use. The Fire Lance. The Fire Lance is an explosive charge mounted on a wooden stick. Once ignited, it will spew fire in a straight line, covering multiple tiles in front of the shooter. It has limited range, but can still be safely fired from the backline without hitting your own men. Victims caught in a jet of fire may suffer one of the new burning injuries. The Fire Lance has a single use in combat, after which it is burned out and useless. Like throwing weapons, it is automatically refilled after each battle and can be used again in the next one. Fire Lancers are particularly useful to soften enemy ranks in deep formation, as they are able to set ablaze opponents in their backline that are out of reach of most polearms or great swords and are guaranteed to hit. The conscripted armies of city-states regularly make use of them before battle lines clash. Ugh. The handgun. The handgun is a massive cast iron cannon with a wooden handle. It fires shrapnel in a cone and can hit multiple targets with one shot for devastating damage, but at less range than either bow or crossbow. Similar to a crossbow, it has to be reloaded after every shot with shrapnel and powder carried in the ammunition slot. As it is heavier and more cumbersome to reload than even a crossbow, a character carrying a handgun cannot fire, reload, and move in the same turn. The handgun excels against multiple lightly armored targets, but can also be effectively employed for damaging several more heavily armored opponents at once. Because the handgun covers a wide cone, smart positioning and watching out for friendly fire is important. Used right, it can quickly even the odds if overwhelmed by superior enemy numbers. After all, the more enemies, the more targets to hit, and any target thus hit may suffer both piercing and burning injuries. I don't know. Again, my gut reaction is I'm not crazy about it, but until we see it in practice, we shouldn't judge. It's worth bearing in mind that you already have almost the same mechanics against undead with the holy water vials, and you can still throw the lindworm acid vials, so, and there's the grenade, so it's not like AoE is really the problem. What could end up unbalancing the game is the damage numbers. It's just going to be a question of whether or not the downsides to these weapons are going to sufficiently ameliorate their advantages. My first thought is that these do huge damage over less range than even a crossbow, so my gut feeling is they're going to give it a 4 tile or 3 tile range, because you don't want to give it 5 tile range, because then it's in the same usefulness category as a throwing weapon. And then this could arguably indirectly be a nerf to throwing weapons, but I kind of feel like the throwing weapons are in a bit of a strange spot, because at least in my experimentation, the only usefulness really of throwing weapons is using javelins with a duelist perk to get the armor pierce, but then you need to be attacking over 2 tiles, and at that point I'd rather be using a polearm user. So you know what I might find myself using with these handguns is, let's assume you have the standard 7 and 5 setup, right? With 7 frontline lads and then 5 at the back. Your center 5 being the bannerman, and you've got 2 ranged guys on either side. Now your front lads are going to have rotation, so you can put the archers actually in front, and assuming you can actually shoot these from point blank range, you can keep your archers in front for a bit. As the enemy approaches, the enemy will run in, you get to fire your shot, and then the backline guys rotate them out. Could be useful. So overall, pretty cool. I'm skeptical, but let's not prejudge. It's all going to come down to the numbers, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if the damage, accuracy, and range numbers get tweaked a little after launch. So this is, for my money, the least favorite thing I'm excited about. I think this is going away from what I want to see Battle Brothers. I mean, I thought cavalry would be something I want to see before handguns, but let's not prejudge. Let's wait till it's out. Okay, friends, thanks for watching. I'm Stobbie. This is Devblog 132 of the Blazing Deserts DLC. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.